Morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. Welcome to all the viewers who are viewing and listening this. Hope you are doing well in this pandemic and staying safe with your family and friends. So today we'll be conducting a seminar, or you can call it as a webinar on the corporate biodiversity. So in this we'll be studying about like how corporate world looks about or looks on biodiversity, their vision on biodiversity. So before going further, so I would like to ask one thing. So, what do you understand by biodiversity? Like, what is biodiversity according to you? So, I'll deep dive into it. Before that, something about me, a brief introduction about me. So, myself, Sumir Pankaj, I have total 3 years of experience in corporate environment and sustainability. I am working with an leading my MNC, that is Avian Bev, which is a German-based brewery. We make beer and we know how beer is important to people, as well as sustainability is also important to the people in the same way. So if we share any common interest, you can connect me on my LinkedIn anytime. And if you have any questions, any doubts, email ID is given. You can write to us anytime. You can remember me as a mentor, as a coach, or as a consultant. So moving forward, so we'll be studying about what is biodiversity today. First, we'll deep dive into the what is biodiversity and why it is important. So I'll not take much time on it because everyone knows what is it and how it works and how and why corporates are investing that much into the biodiversity projects. In the segment two, we'll focus on a roadmap. If you want to develop a biodiversity, we'll focus on a roadmap how to create a biodiversity in your premises, external or internal. Secondly, we'll focus on the case study, which I personally did in a project. Sorry, I cannot disclose the name of the company or the name of the consultant for whom or for which I was doing that. But I can share you what all were the projects which we did and what all the activities we did in that. The third thing is biodiversity and UVP for a corporate. What is UVP? That is the first question. So UVP is unique value proposition. So in corporates, everything is not about money, right? So you have to stand out from the crowd. So corporates use this biodiversity as a concept or as a vision to stand out from the crowd, and they call it as unique value proposition for themselves. So moving forward, so we'll first understand what is biodiversity. So biodiversity is whatever variety of species in the ecosystem or in a genomic level or on a terrestrial level or on a micro level you are seeing that all considered as a biodiversity. Diversity means variety of lifestyle or variety of species, variety of life forms on Earth. That is known as biodiversity. And why biodiversity is so much important? So biodiversity gives many benefits to us, like it gives food, oxygen, and other kinds of material for commercial use also. Followed by why it is important is it makes a balance in the ecosystem. Like if there is no biodiversity, then no one can survive on this earth. And the basic aim, which you don't know, is establish and develop a biodiversity park, which corporates are doing right now, which shall be the center for environmental conservation and can cater a wide variety of native species. Obviously, if you want to build a biodiversity in your area, then you must choose a native species. You cannot choose some species which cannot survive in your area. The native species are the species which can adapt to your environment and which can survive there. So, what is the objective of this slide or this entire presentation? For a model specification zone to create awareness on education and environment. So, we'll be creating a model on a biodiversity in a corporate terms where we can sustain the environment and educate people on what is biodiversity and how it can help. Second, thirdly, it is to increase the green cover both external and internal. When I say both internal and external, that means within the premises and outside the premises. Fourthly, to grow the rate of the native plant species to enhance prevailing natural ecosystem. So this means again you have to choose the native species and you can plant that in your premises which can make your environment and ecosystem much more ethical and much more wider in biodiversity. To showcase a self-sustaining model to the interested internal and external parties. So here the internal and external parties can be your stakeholders within your company. External parties can be your government companies like pollution control board and other forest department. So you can cater them. So moving forward, why biodiversity is important in India? Like why should we focus biodiversity or why should we give that much importance to biodiversity in India? Because the global biodiversity ranges from 2 to 10 million species, which are totally not discovered yet. So it's still in progress. The second thing is the number of species of database will be 1.474 billion, which is an old data. According to the recent data, it has crossed 2 million and it is still in progress. So why India? Because India serves for the home for the 7.6% of mammalian, 12.6% of avian species, 6.2% of reptilian, 4.4% of amphibian, and 11.7% of fishes, with 6% of flowering species in India. So India, as you know, has already three biodiversity hotspots and is very rich in diversity. So I have taken an example of the Indian forest. So majorly in India, we can find tropical dry deciduous forests. Means their leaves shed in one season, they come back in another season. So that kind of forest in India will prevail. The vegetation in India is the Deccan forest vegetation. I have taken the example of Telangana, the Hyderabad, from where I belong, and I am continuing and pursuing my job also. So in the Hyderabad and Telangana area, so it's a Deccan forest vegetation, and it has wide variety of species here. So this was about overall biodiversity, like what is biodiversity, why we need biodiversity, and now we'll be studying on why and how corporates focus on biodiversity. So in the next slide, we'll be studying like corporate world, which we talk about like it's a concrete jungle and they are not doing anything for environment and sustainability. So to change that mentality or mindset, we'll be seeing this slide. So why corporate focus or invest in biodiversity? The first and foremost reason is securing the license to operate. So there are certain licenses which government has to give to a corporate or an industry or a manufacturing company to make them operate. So they have to give government as a confidence that they are a green industry and they are not polluting the environment. So that is the basic macro reason why corporate invest in biodiversity. The second reason is reducing operating costs. So that's an interesting concept like how biodiversity development can reduce your operating costs. Because once you develop a biodiversity, that area will be greener, that area will be cleaner. So you can find various methods for your waste management or for your NVAs, that is non-value adding items, which can be converted into a value adding items and that can reduce your operating cost. I'll give you an example in the coming slides when we will be discussing the case studies. So the third point is enhancing the reputation and brand. So this is most important, which I already told you. That is the UVP, unique value proposition, to stand out from other competitors. So this is a tool which corporates are using for their reputation and brand building. Fourth is improving productivity of the staff and morale. So I'll share you an example. When you are working for 8 hours or 9 hours continuously in front of system, so at that time your brain, your eyes, your body becomes like drained out or the energy will be very low. So you can go to biodiversity parks within the campus and you can explore few of the things so that you can boost your morale and you can come back to your productivity. So that's how it improves the productivity of the staff as well as the employees. The next point is increasing the market access. So if you are having in biodiversity, you can brand in such a way that you are a green company, you are not polluting industries and all. So you can will be having a increased market access. So you will be standing out from the competitors and you can increase your market. So maintain access to capital. So with this, as soon as your marketing improves, ultimately your capital improves because your sales are improving. So if you want to know more about this, so there is a very wonderful book written by Ravi Sharma. So it's known as Corporate Biodiversity Management for Sustainable Growth. If you find a chance, please read this. It's printed in Springer Journal. So it's very good book. I recommend to everyone. Please go through it once. So yeah. So after understanding what is biodiversity, why biodiversity is important, and why corporates are investing in biodiversity. What if you are an corporate employee and you have given a project for biodiversity development, or you have given a situation where your boss is telling we are having certain concerns and our industry or our manufacturing sector or our corporate falls under a critically polluted area. So we need to do something for development of biodiversity park. So what would you do? Or some of you will be students which will face these kinds of situations in future. So now we will be creating a roadmap for biodiversity park. This is a real life roadmap which I worked on, and furthermore I'll be taking through a case study which I executed, and I was part of the team in that execution. So this is the first roadmap which we created. I cannot I cannot tell you the company name and a consultant name because that will be a branding again. So I'll keep it as a secret, but rest of the details I can give. So first step of the roadmap is aligning the stakeholders. So there will be various stakeholders in various stages. It may be internal, it may be external, it may be third party, it may be consultant, it may be government, anyone. So you have to align all the stakeholders in your first step. So that will include your land survey, your location fixing, your identification, your fund approval, everything. Your second step is expert consultation. So as you know, one work cannot be done by everyone, and every work cannot be done by one person. So in that way, we must have an expert on every stage or every step of your journey. So in your expert consultation, first point is landscaping. So you can hire a consultant or a landscape architect who can guide you in landscaping. Topographic sheet, you can hire any consultant from a remote sensing agency who can make a topographic sheet and give it to you. Or if you have that skills, you can also make that. Third is modeling. Modeling means like how you want to keep, where you want to keep. That is modeling. So for this also there are various consultants and advisors present in the market. Roadmap, which we have already creating. Last is research and analysis. So research and analysis is your major job according to your site and according to your location. That you have to do. Rest you can hire consultant. So the third is the project implementation. In project implementation, the vendor onboarding, baseline study, and execution and maintenance, these three are the major and foremost important steps in project implementation, where you have to search for the vendor, assess the vendor, onboard him, and explain him your entire scenario, like why you want to develop a particular biodiversity plan and how you are seeing it in future. So the second point is baseline assessment. That vendor will come to your site and he will do the baseline assessment according to the geography, according to the climate, according to your temperature, etc. Then he will suggest you the ways like how can you execute it and how can you maintain it for a longer term. So the fourth and the foremost last part is result and review. After creating a biodiversity park, you must go for an impact assessment. What is impact assessment? So you have created a certain biodiversity park, whether it will sustain or not. First point. Second point, it will be your learning and improvement opportunities. Are you finding any learnings in that? Are you finding any improvement opportunities in that? The last is leadership review. So in leadership review, your senior management team and plant head team should involve and they should review each and every step or each and every result so that it can give you some green branding or unique value proposition from that project so that you can stand out from your competitors. So we have discussed on the roadmap. So let's take step by step in a case study. Okay. So this is the case study which I was involved into. So we have divided our entire project into three phases. One is phase one, that is a small model kind of thing in a 4 acres area. Then it will be a phase two, where the major biodiversity and ecosystem development we did for 17 acres of land, and then we moved for phase three, that is social forestry. In social forestry, why it is important? Because within the premises, if you are increasing your biodiversity, that is not visible to the society or the community. It is limited to your employees or the government agency. But you have to brand your company to the society, to the market. So you have to focus on social forestry also. So the first phase for introduction of the model in a 4 acres area, what we did, we had divided this entire area or zone into 5 zones. The first will be your butterfly or bee park. Second was our perennial medicinal shrubs and attached walkways. Third was a green walk and atrium. Fourth zone was a boundary area with the native species and dense forest. Fifth was corporate branding. So this corporate branding is same thing as UVP, that is unique value proposition. I'll show you in the further slides. So yeah, first step was to assign an area. We identified an area. We took the dimensions of it. We hired a consultant for this and landscape architect also. So the second step was the current status of the area. The current status of the area was currently unattained, means it was not touched by anyone. So whether we have to develop a green belt or we have to develop a biodiversity park, there was a debate on this. Then we freeze that we have to develop a biodiversity park. So in that biodiversity park, what all we want to keep, we have to decide in this step. So we have decided that in a shorter span, we'll be having a butterfly park. We'll be having some medicinal garden with boats and names of that. Then we'll be having a fountain and a stage kind of thing, which will be in a natural looking condition. Then we'll be having a boundary, having all the native species, and lastly, we'll brand this complete project as a corporate branding model. So these are the steps which we took. First step was the expert consultation. We hired a consultant from outside. He visited our area and he analyzed the soil and he tested our water. Everything was under the limits and defined by the agricultural institute. Then finalization of the project proposal. Then they have submitted the project proposal, and this took almost 2 months time. That is between June to July in 2020. We executed this. The second step was carried out in August to September, where the area leveling and civil work was carried out. The civil construction engineer came with his contract workmen and dream team, where he designed all the landscapes. He executed all the civil works and constructed pathways for the easier construction. All those things he did. After that, mulching of the soil and then soil readiness we have to test. So again, a civil engineer and a landscape architect both combinedly worked on this in the month of September to November, where they re-enriched the soil and they ensured that this soil should be good for your biodiversity cultivation. In the further months, that is November to December, we have started our the plantation of sapling. So, in the unique thing which we did in plantation of sapling is we involved our employees in plantation of sapling. So, what benefit we got in that? So, benefit we got in that is that when you are planting a sapling, then it is your baby. So, your name will be on that plant or the sapling with a board and your photo, and you have planted it, and it's your responsibility to take care of that plant or that particular sapling. So that gives a community involvement in such projects of biodiversity where you have the ownership to maintain your biodiversity park and not to spoil it. Right? So in the month of Jan to June 2021, we have an observation phase where we'll be observing whatever plantation we did and we'll be maintaining that. And from June to December in 2021, that will be a maintenance phase of the biodiversity park. And after June 2021, During the maintenance phase, we went for the evaluation and survey, whether it is attaining a self-sustaining phase or not. That we evaluated, and if it is not attaining, then we have to make an action plan and we have to implement it. If it is attaining a self-sustaining phase, we have to keep on monitoring it. So, what are the opportunities we saw in this? So, first is obviously green branding, second is green belt creation, third is vermicomposting, fourth is landscaping. So, I told you like in opportunities we'll be having certain waste material which is reducing our operational costs. So through this biodiversity park, we managed our canteen waste, we managed our the biological waste, whatever we generated, as in we converted into a manure through vermicomposting and we used that into our biological park. So in this way, we came over our challenges and other challenges are civil debris. So we tied up with an civil recycling vendor who used to collect all our debris and used to recycle it and reuse it. We managed our canteen waste through our manuring and vermicomposting. And civil court case, there was a civil court case which was going on our manufacturing sector. So due to this biodiversity park, so when government visited this, so they also considered this as a very good initiative, and the court case was like resolved after that. So background study we have to do after you're fixing everything. So we approach different vendors. So these are the few of the vendors and who did few of the projects in different locations. So we started approaching them and we started assessing them, like whether it is an only consultancy vendor, whether it is an execution part vendor, or so on and so forth. So here are other vendors which are not private vendors but all are government sector vendors. So like World Wildlife Fund, like Forest Department of Uttar Pradesh, they are also supporting corporates in establishing all these biodiversity parks. So once the vendor is selected, so we'll be preparing a list of the vendors and we'll be deciding whether they are willing to execute all these activities or not. Suppose IBBI is there. So he is an advisory vendor. Like he'll be advising, and he'll not be executing or maintaining any kind of biodiversity park. He'll be coming, he'll be assessing everything, and he'll be advising you what to do. That's it. Suppose the second vendor is Ladybird. Ladybird Environmental Consultancy LLP. That is a vendor who is involved throughout from scratch to end. So they'll be starting their training part to the impact assessment part until it enters into the self-sustainment phase. So like that, we have to assess the vendors. And once you assess the vendors, after that, you can choose your appropriate vendor according to your goals and objectives. And you can proceed with them. So after development of biodiversity park, there are certain surveys which can be done by the different organizations who can give you a very good recognition, a very good award in the biodiversity park development. On the screen, you can see different awards in which our industry or our consultancy has received Indian CSR award and National CSR award, both in the CSR sector. And next year, we'll be going for global SDG awards also because we are already into a self-sustaining phase of biodiversity park. So this is the phase two. Phase one we have covered. So what you have to do on a small scale execution of the biodiversity park. This is a large scale execution of the biodiversity park. The small scale can be replicated on the larger scale also. So the area we chose was a 17 acres area in a phase two. So here we uh, expanded what we did in phase one. We have replicated it also and we have done the additional works also. So here we have first selected the area, which is approximately 17 acres. We we assessed the present condition of the area, which was again unattained, and a lot of bush and weeds were growing there. We found opportunities there, like how to improve that, how to maintain that, and how to convert it into a biodiversity park. Then biodiversity methods. We explored like food forestry or permaculture, etc. After that, what are the advantages from that? It was assessed, then the timeline. We fixed the timelines and we executed that project. So what all we did, I'll show you next. So this is the phase three of our biodiversity park development. That is the social forestry, because we had a lake beside our plant. So that lake was polluted since 2009, and our area comes under critically polluted area. So we took an initiative to restore that particular lake through a consultant, through a fundraising, etc. So we generated solutions for that lake, that is Nizampet Lake. We inspired from a lake called as Nizampet Lake, and we replicated the same thing in the Patanchura Lake. So the solutions were social forestry, hedging around the forest, hedging around the lakes, creating a butterfly garden over there, providing walkways to the visitors. So these are all the small things we have done, which has increased the social forestry of the particular lake or particular site. So in the fourth quadrant, you can see the photographs, and in the third quadrant, you can see the before photographs of the lake. So we have rejuvenated. So this is known as social forestry by involvement of community. So yeah, so we have done the case study of how we executed a project in a corporate industry, or how corporate industry is focusing or viewing biodiversity as their UVP, as unique value proposition, and why they are investing into the corporate so much things and so much times to increase their productivity. So now I'll show you a few of the photographs, like what we did in our corporate biodiversity venture, and how we executed, or how other corporates execute this biodiversity development as a UVP. So this was what I was talking about, known as green branding. So green branding means you have to brand your corporate company, or you have to brand your corporate name as a green company. So in this way, you can brand your company as a green company, because few of the government sectors, they will tell you that you are not an environment loving company or sustainable company. You can move out of this area. They can issue a show cause notice. So to stop that, you can brand your company in such a way that it should look like your company is a green branding company. So people use different ways in that. So they can write their name, company's name on a biodiversity park. They can sponsor some CSR activities on biodiversity. They can conduct seminars. They can conduct webinars. They can generate products like paper pencils and all. They can distribute amongst the society with their brand name, with their company name. So like that, you can green brand yourself. So these are all the activities which can be involved in a biodiversity park for visitor engagement. So this is an oxygen tunnel. Oxygen tunnel means these are the species of plants which can give you more oxygen when you walk through it. So it feels like you are walking in an oxygen-rich area. Second is vertical garden. If you don't have space, no problem. You can grow in vertical garden. Third is whatever wood, dead woods you have, you can use those dead woods in making the sitting places. And fourth was walkways. So you can create beautiful walkways through which visitors can come and walk around. The fifth was information exhibit. Whatever butterfly garden you are making, or medicinal garden you are making. So you can exhibit your things on a board, like how you want and where you want to place those things, and you can guide the visitors around that. So this we did in phase two, which was our 17 acres area, that is artificial wetland and green belt and green bridge management. So we created a green bridge and an artificial wetland over there for the visitor engagement, where birds used to come, they used to sit, and visitors can go around their free time and enjoy their time to relax and relieve the stress. So wooden carvings we placed, again sitting places we placed, bird watch walks we placed, information exhibits also we placed. So these were the few of the initiatives we took in the citizen engagement area. So this is how the butterfly garden looks like. So if you are developing a butterfly garden, it should be flowering plants majorly. That we call it as angiosperms. So it should be very colorful and it should have walkways where they can come and visit the butterflies. Visitors can visit the butterflies. If you can afford, then you can call the consultant zoologist from outside. They can assess the butterfly species of that particular area and you can put a list of them. So this is what an stage looks like, a natural stage looks like, which with an optional fountain. So you can make a stage where you can conduct events, you conduct corporate events there, you can conduct any reward and recognition events there. So it will be a unique value proposition for your company to stand out from other industries. So this is the expected look of the biodiversity park after it is full-fledged and after it enters into the self-sustaining phase. Once it enters the self-sustaining phase, after that you just have to monitor whether it is continuing into the self-sustaining phase or not. If it is not continuing it into the self-sustaining phase, you can again call a consultant. You can review the health of your biodiversity park and you can rejuvenate that. So that's it from my side. So if you have any questions, you can write us to on the email ID mentioned here, or else you can connect me on LinkedIn anytime for any questions, for any help. If you want to build a biodiversity park, or if you want to build your corporate into a green branding company, you can always contact me. We'll be helping you out in that way. So till then, see you for the next session. Till then, stay safe, stay healthy, and love nature.